Hello, this is RICKY, the Android guy. Hey guys, today we're doing another side-by-side comparison, and it is between the Samsung Galaxy Tab 4 7.0 versus the Asus Memo Pad 7. So we're going to find out which one really is the best between these two. The brand name or the best bang for your buck. Let's see which one really is better between the two devices. And if you do want to see the whole video, just keep watching. If you do want to though, on our channel we do have them broken up into segments. So let's go and see which one is the best and in which categories. Now the first thing we always compare is look and feel, and these two are pretty far apart when it comes to that department. With the Asus Memo Pad, the look isn't that great, especially on the front. The bezels are just really big, and it really takes away from it. However, the back feels so much nicer between the two. It feels not cheap. It has a good weight to it, and it just feels like a nicer material. Doesn't get fingerprints, doesn't get scratches, and that is one thing that we really like for a backing. So we like to see it just really stand out like this. Simplistic, good, but it doesn't feel cheap, and that's something we want in a budget tablet. However, with the Samsung, it definitely looks nicer from the front. You can definitely just see it stands out from the front more so. But the back just looks and feels cheap. I mean, this looks like a budget tablet, and that's the main problem with it. It really just looks very cheap. Again, no fingerprints or scratches, which is nice, but just the material feels so much cheaper in comparison between the two. So one has look and one has feel. When that happens, we like to go in the way of a tie, but it depends on to you what is more important for you. Between look and feel, we'll call this a draw. Now, something very important to the smaller tablets is going to be web browsing. You want to make sure your web browser is quick, and for this comparison, we're using both of their web browsers that come with it. So Asus has their own web browser, and Samsung has their own web browser. The first thing we always take a look at is screen resolution and screen quality. On the Asus, we have a 920 by 1200 screen, which gives us a 1080p display at 323 pixels per inch. On the Samsung, however, we only have a 1280 by 800 screen, which does give us a 720p display, but that leaves us with only a 216 pixels per inch, so over 100 more pixels on the Asus. And you can tell from far away even just the clarity of it, but let's go in terms of how it loads. So we're going to load a website that is very heavy and see which one loads first. So the Asus definitely has what looks like an early lead. And the Asus is done. Samsung is still loading. So yeah, the Asus one definitely seems to load the web page much quicker in comparison actually. Samsung is still going, and the Asus just beats it by a mile on this test. Now, we're not sure if the Samsung got stuck in one way or another, but regardless, it is really just very slow in comparison. This is why I never use the Samsung web browser. I always use the Chrome one, and Samsung just finished. So let's take a look between these two now and just see how responsive they are. So both are fairly responsive, as we can see. Scrolling all the way up, scrolling all the way down. Both really responsive. Let's see, pinch to zoom. Okay. Pinch to zoom is definitely a little bit better, it seems like. Oh, well, now it's hiccuping. Neither one is perfect with pinch to zoom. Both seem to be having issues with that. So neither one's good at pinch to zoom. How about double tap? Oops. So overall in double tap, the Samsung is loading a little bit quicker and definitely more zoomed in. If you wanted to see a part of the screen, it looks like the Samsung is doing a little bit better job of it. But overall, the Asus just definitely loaded quicker. In terms of pinch to zoom, neither one is particularly good at that. But overall, I would give it to the Asus just for loading the web page dramatically faster. So if you are going to use the built-in web browser, you're going to want to go with the Asus. Alright, now one of the most important things is sound quality. The Asus definitely has the better placement starting off, where it has stereo speakers on the bottom and the top of the tablet, which is a really good placement. Fortunately, Samsung has it on the back, which is traditionally the worst place where you can have a speaker. And let's see how it affects it. We're going to start off with the Asus, then go to the Samsung, and then go back and forth, and see which one's better.
Kinda crazy how the game is changed. The lights go on, they scream my name. The curtain goes down, I remain the same. But all that money don't equal the price of fame. From LA to New York, Seattle to the Bay. West night flights to Oahu, getting late. Yeah, I'm going down to Vegas, they know where we stay. Last show in Cali, headed down to the state. I was a boy with a dream, had my head in. Now I'm sleeping first class, got a bed in the clouds. Hit my pops to pick me up, and he said he was proud. King shit with a beanie on instead of a crown. Yeah, counting all my blessings. Shout out to the most high. Started from the bottom, now I'm sitting at the most high. Gypsies to the business, now I'm literally so fly. Motivated by my brokenness, guess that's why they call it coach, right? Yeah. Back when I was broke, I was asking why I'd go through all this trouble, wipe the tears up out of my eye. Connected to my fan.
So when it comes to these speakers, neither one is that loud, unfortunately. I noticed that on both of them, just compared to even some smartphones that I have. They're louder than these tablets. So where it really comes down to is it going to be clarity or is it going to be loudness? With these two, the Asus I feel is definitely the clearer between the two, and especially when hitting songs that have more high notes, it's definitely better, period. However, when you got into the rapping portion, the Samsung did sound a bit louder between the two. Overall, I just have to give, for me, even though Samsung's a bit louder when it comes to rapping portions on the verses, overall on the chorus and most other types of genres, I feel that you're going to have a better overall time with the Asus. Therefore, we are going to give it to the Asus for sound quality. So now we're going to test the video quality between these two tablets. At the top we have the Asus, which does have a 1080p display, and on the bottom we have the Samsung, which only has a 720p display. Will that be the biggest differentiator though, or will Samsung pull a trick with their well-known screens? Let's see. Okay, so hopefully you could see it through the screen. And by the way, if you're wondering why I'm doing a Samsung commercial on here, it's because they don't flag it. So overall, I was actually surprised because I was just ready to give it to the Asus. But with this one, it really does go to the Samsung. The colors on every single shot really look so much better than the colors on the Asus, and that's the only thing that the Asus lose on. It's not that the clarity is really that much difference between these two. It's actually not really as noticeable as it has been between the other two tablets. But really the colors, just look at that sky difference, the grass, I mean anything. Even when I first started this, let's go all the way back. Just everything in this shot, the color on the shirt, the orange in the back, the purple on her, you know, it's just everything just stands out so much more, and definitely skin tones really look much better. So yeah, overall, I actually will surprisingly give this one to the Samsung. Now we're going to compare the camera quality difference. Between these two, first let me say that it is very impressive for any phone. or tablet, rather, to beat Samsung when it comes to options on camera. It's rarely ever done. So on the Samsung right here, you do have the modes, which give you beauty face, sound and shot, panorama, sports, and night. You also have filters at the bottom, which are grayscale, sepia, and negative. So that's the main features you have on here. However, on the Asus, you do have a good amount of things as well. For one, you have a lot more filters, as you can see, so that's just nice that you just have more there. But even on the camera features, you just have features that you normally find on a smartphone, not necessarily a tablet. So that's a really nice feature that you have. I mean, you have time rewind, you have HDR built in, you have night shot, selfie, miniature, and just so many things that we see on phones, but definitely not tablets. So that's a really great feature, and not even that, but you have video modes too. So it really stands out when it comes to overall features. You really got to give it to Asus for having more features built in on the camera. Now let's check out their quality difference. So for the first picture, we have a color reproduction photo, and neither one nails it actually. Overall, the Samsung nailed the gold on here, but got a little bit more of a darker orange, whereas this one really just missed it overall. It got overexposed. Keep in mind too, the Asus has a 5 megapixel camera, and the Samsung has a 3.2 on the rear. So that'll play into our detailed photo, which comes up next. But overall, in color reproduction, Samsung's a bit better, but neither one hit the mark. Now, when it comes to clarity, however, we have a definite winner, but then also, again, a definite loser when it comes to exposure. Again, the Asus under this bright light condition could just not overexpose the shot. The Samsung kind of compensated for the shot, but definitely when we zoom in to the quality between the two is where the definitely the Asus shines, just in the clarity between those. The Asus is by far the better one. Hopefully you can see that a bit better. But in comparison to those two, it's just really pixelated on the Samsung, where it's very clear on the Asus. And then finally we have for the selfie takers. So for the selfie takers, took a selfie with both. The Samsung has a 1.3 megapixel and the Asus has a 2.1 megapixel. Overall, the Asus does do a better job. Actually, in exposure as well, it did do a better job. So overall, for selfie taking, you're going to want to go with the Asus. For that reason, the Asus beats in selfie taking. In terms of clarity, the Asus wins, but definitely in overexposure and color reproduction, the Samsung wins. So for that reason, I'm going to give these overall to a tie. Samsung wins here. It's kind of a tie between these two. And then we have Asus winning here. So overall, we'll give it a tie. It depends on what you're looking for. Definitely more detail on the Asus overall, but overexposed definitely when it comes to certain lighting conditions, it seems. Now, when it comes to gaming, these two are very different, but yet the same. In terms of overall performance on gaming, the Asus did seem to do a little bit better, although Samsung tries to put out better graphics, but becomes very laggy. Asus does not put out the best graphics, but it's not laggy at all. So for that reason, overall, I think more people would like to go with the Asus for gaming, not to mention that the storage definitely plays a factor. With the Samsung, I had to install and then uninstall games just to do the gaming review for it. However, for the Asus, with 16 gigs of storage, that was definitely going to be better in the long run for it. So I definitely like the Asus better for gaming. Now when it comes to battery life, both tablets pass the 7-hour mark. However, the Samsung will typically pass the 8-hour mark as opposed to the Asus passing about 7 hours. So when we go to these tablets and this price range, we can't expect the most out of everything, and battery life is usually one thing that takes a hit. Now, I am glad to say that both of them do pass a 7-hour range on most occasions. However, you have to think that the Asus really fails in this part, mostly due to the 1080p versus 720p display. Because of that, it does drain quicker. In this comparison alone, they were 2% off when we first started, and now they are about 5% off. So just while doing this comparison, you can see that Asus was draining battery life quicker compared to the Samsung. So overall, if you want a bit better, longer battery life, you're going to want to go with the Samsung. Now, when it comes to extras, this really was a tough decision. Both devices have a micro SD card slot, which is always good for both. However, the Asus doesn't really have too much beyond that. Samsung does have a lot of software extras. So, for instance, the Handcom Office is a great way to create, edit, or just share Word, Excel, and PowerPoint down to the T that it is identical to Microsoft in almost every way. That's a real great feature that honestly nothing on Google Play can compare to, and I've tried them all. That one is just in a whole nother league of its own. You have Kids Mode, which is really good, and again, beyond the other ones that you can find on Google Play, Kids Mode for this one really divides it very well. Not only that, but of course you do have the multi-window feature, where you can hold the back button and actually use two apps at the same time, which comes really in handy with a tablet. Finally, on the Samsung, you have the IR blaster as well. Now this is where it came down to tricky. Asus does have more storage, so that's where it really played a part. However, overall, I feel that the more extras in the tradition of the extras category, and not the best bang for your buck, which is next, but in tradition for the extras category, you really have to give it to Samsung for giving you a bit more hardware features, but definitely more software features. You just get so many useful software extras with Samsung and compared to Asus. The final category we always go on, of course, is price. And this is what really stands out about these two tablets. The Samsung is normally priced at $199. It's currently on sale for $179, and it gives you 8 gigs of storage. However, the Asus is normally priced at $179, and it's currently on sale for $149. This one gives you 16 gigs of storage. And creating all things equal, just on the storage and for the price, it easily gets the best bang for the buck between the two. So if price is your concern, you're definitely getting more for your money when it comes to the Asus tablet versus the Samsung tablet. Alright, let's tie them up and see who won. When it comes to look and feel, it did become a tie simply because the Asus has a better feel, whereas the Samsung has the better look. However, when it came to web browsing, it easily was the Asus, way outpacing the Samsung in terms of speed of loading a web page, and about the same in everything else. When it came to music, the sound quality of the Asus was definitely superior to that of the Samsung, especially with Samsung having their speaker in the back. When it comes to movie watching, you just can't beat a Samsung screen apparently. Even with the lower resolution, the Samsung was the better one for watching movies. When it came to camera quality, it came down to overexposure and better color versus clarity and better selfies. So overall, it was a tie between the two. When it came to gaming, however, Asus does stand out for not only having more storage to store more high-end games, but it does not lag as much. Even though it doesn't display as the best quality, it doesn't lag when it plays games. When it came to battery life, Samsung beats it out by about an hour. Overall, you have to count it up to the Asus 1080p display versus 720p display on the Samsung, and Samsung does edge out the battery life when it comes to these two tablets. When it comes to extras, Samsung just offers a bevy of software features that Asus is not. from everything from split screen to a really great office suite to being able to have kids mode, an IR blaster, lots of extras that you have that Asus just doesn't give you. However, when it came to price, this is where Asus definitely shines, being at anywhere from $20 to $30 less than Samsung, but giving you 16 gigs of storage as opposed to Samsung only giving you 8. And with that, the winner by one is Asus. Yes, guys, if you are looking for the better web browsing, music, gaming, and best bang for your buck, you want to go with the Asus Memo Pad 7. However, if you want to watch more movies, YouTube, Netflix, have a better battery life, and want some more extras, you want to go with the Samsung. Hopefully you found this review helpful. If you did, please give a like, thumbs up down below. This has been RICKY, the Android Guy.